And welcome back, everybody, to National Signing Day 2017. Joe Zagacki alongside former University of Miami center Don Bailey Jr. It is signing day. The fax machine is red hot. I still think it's a fax. I don't know. Maybe they can
It's okay.
email it in. I'm not really sure, but we're going to go with fax anyway. And joining us now is University of Miami defensive coordinator Manny Diaz. And the Hurricanes have added to their defense, already a strong defense after last year. So we'll talk about the incoming players in a moment, but they've got a standard to live up to because your defense, Coach, congratulations on that, made significant strides last year.
Thank you. It was we gave him a simple goal: play like a Hurricane. Look like what a Miami Hurricane defense should look like. And I told those guys they'll always have a special place because they're the ones that for me, reestablished the standard of what a Hurricane defense should be. And now, as you mentioned with the recruits, that allowed the recruits to see what it really means, what we all remember Miami Hurricane defense being, and now it's their responsibility to play up to that standard.
Well, let's see. Your defense went from 77th in scoring to 12th in the nation, so I would say that's pretty good. And total defense from 69th to number 20 in the nation. So those are just a couple of the numbers. Let's take a look at some of the guys now coming in for you that are signed up right now that can help. We'll take a look at the list of signees, and that's important because those guys are going to be on the attack as well.
There's no doubt. And really what we were looking for was a group of guys that had that same type of pride in being Hurricanes, and what it meant to play for Hurricanes. So, a guy like, everything with our defense started with our defensive line, and a guy like John Ford, who we think can continue the tradition of the great defensive tackle play that we felt like Kendrick Norton and R.J. McIntosh reestablished this year for us up front was so crucial. And then everyone knows that we bring back a lot of parts to our defense, but we lost some pretty big pieces in the secondary. So we were looking not just for guys that loved not just guys that we thought were good players, but guys that had a chance to come in and contribute early. And there's some things that go into what makes that happen. Number one, you've got to be physically gifted enough to handle the grind of a college football season. You have to be mature enough to come in and learn the way that we do things. And so when you talk about Derek Smith, who come in at safety, a very physically gifted guy, Trajan Bandy, who, if you cut him open, he bleeds orange and green. He's 100% Hurricane. And then Javante Dean, where we felt like we had to add some age in our secondary, similar to what we did last year with an Adrian Colbert. And these are guys that we joke with them. We're not recruiting them anymore. Now that they've signed, we still want them to come in and make an impact right away in our secondary. And with that front seven, they have to play in front of. We tell them they shouldn't have to cover for very long.
We have some breaking news while these guys are up on the screen, and obviously you're on the defensive side of the ball, but some of those guys are from the secondary, and so they're going to get pretty good competition. As Mike Harley has just signed up, wide receiver from St. Thomas, and
correct,
his national letter of intent has just come across. So that's pretty good news. That's a speedster on the offensive side of the ball.
It's fantastic news, and really one of the great things about Mike reminds me very much like Trajan, true Kane, pure Kane. He's the guy that's going to have that pride to do a little bit extra to make sure that Miami gets to where we think that Miami should go. It's going to be a great challenge for us every day in practice because he can roll. I mean, he has game-breaking speed, a guy that can take short plays and turn them into long plays, can help you in wide receiver sweeps, all this type of stuff, and you see obviously great ball skills. So we've already been talking about it. Trust me, some of our defensive backs have already been. We know that we'll be challenged, but I will say this: every great former Cane who we have had speak to our team or to some of the recruits in the past year that I've been here, every one of them has mentioned one thing, and that's the competition on Green Tree practice field is what made them the player that they ended up becoming. So for us and for our recruits, the ability to add great players all over the field, which should be the expectation at the University of Miami, and the expectation of not having to go very far to find those great players. And then when we come here and we know that iron sharpens iron, and these guys, if we can make practice harder than the games, that's how you have a great team. And this recruiting class is on the way towards establishing that.
Coach, we had Coach Cool in here earlier, and he talked about when he was recruiting that your defense, because you play so many people, is very attractive to recruits because they realize that even though there's a front line established, a first team in place, that if they're ready, they're going to play. I mean, you're facing 80, 90, 100 plays a game now as a defensive coordinator. you can't have guys go the whole day.
Correct. And I think this past year actually was a great illustration of that because, there's obviously a point in October where we lost some guys and we were really as thin as you can be and still field a football team that can function. And so, look, this is the first year Miami's at 85 scholarships, and that's not a little deal. That's a big deal. So there were 5 just ghosts on our team that we did not have due to the sins of the past. So to be able to get and just get our numbers properly situated where you've got the right type of guys, the right number of guys at every position is going to be a big step for this program being able to handle the natural attrition you have during the course of a year, even if a guy's out for a game or for an entire season. And then the success that our freshmen had this past year, what that shows is not only will we play the best player, but the defense is not complicated. It's something that can be learned and you can get up to speed very quickly because we had a guy at all 3 levels, whether it's Malik Young in the back end, of course everybody knows about the 3 linebackers, or Joe Jackson up front, that at all 3 stops of the defense, a guy came in, passed some older guys, it's not very complicated, get out there and play, and you can make an impact early.
You mentioned those linebackers, right? And they all had great years, freshmen All-Americans across the board. Yet you still got more linebackers to say, we're going to come in and play. You had Bradley Jennings coming in here, Wayman Steve coming in. So you had 2 more linebackers coming in to compete.
Yeah, and love that those guys are already on our campus, which is fantastic. And to your point, they love to compete. Because there's, you certainly could make a point, well, you don't want to go to Miami now, but obviously our depth was not where we wanted it to be anyway. But I'm going to go back to they love Miami. They love what it means to be a Hurricane, So when you talk about a guy like Wayman Steve, you're talking about fantastic instincts, a guy that can, quickly diagnose a play, has a natural feel for getting through the offensive line, shooting gaps, very well coached at Miami Central, just great instincts, So a guy that is sort of born to be a linebacker. Some guys you got to train him with the GPS system. He just understands how to stay square to the line of scrimmage, how to use his hands. He just understands how to play the game. And when you have that, you can see right there defeating a block, staying square, and being able to finish a play in the backfield. When you linebacker is a instinct position. There's some positions where you can just rely on natural physical, freakiness, and certainly you can there's a place for that at linebacker, but you got to understand how to visually diagnose the game quickly because things happen, 4 yards away from your face. So I think that's a guy that really excels at that, and then obviously played at a school where they're expected to win every game,
right.
And that's where we like getting guys that are from big time programs that understand that you are everyone's big game. We even saw it this year when the Miami Hurricanes roll into town. We're the show. We're the show for 12 weeks out of the year. Whoever we're playing, we're their biggest game of the season. So you have to understand that that's a standard where everyone's trying to make a play based off of you and based off of what you've done.
Coach Bradley Jennings, he comes from Jacksonville. The importance of being able to go into North Florida, a place that's been roped off, for a lot of years, but you've had success the last couple of years, especially at the linebacker spot, going up to Jacksonville and pulling players out of there.
There's no doubt the 904 area code has been really good to the Hurricane defense here over the past few years, not just with Pickney and Darian Owens, but certainly Kendrick Norton and what he did this past year. Bradley Jennings, Coach Rick and I were at Florida State when his father played there. His father, obviously out of Carroll City, knew what it meant to represent Miami on the football field. Bradley Jennings, the senior, was as tough and as feared of a player as we had when we were at Florida State. It was a guy that when there was a big collision in the middle of the pile and you couldn't really tell, you guys are calling the game from up in the box. You're like, I wonder who that was. Chances are the guy getting up off the pile had Jennings written on the back, and I see BJ very similar. A thumper, a guy that can control the heart of the defense. If you think about the impact that we made in our run defense from the past year to this year, you've got to be sound in the inside. You got to be, your 2D tackles and the A and B gap and the Mike and the Will linebacker behind them. Really, that's the rock of your defense. So he's a guy that again has been well coached. We know he's tough. Has the instincts because he's been well coached by his father, and the staff at St. Louis does a great job. And we're really lucky to have him as a mid-year so he can come in and get up to speed quickly.
Not to start a border war here, but Coach Dugan says that he wants first dibs on DJ Dallas.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Can he play defense too?
Well, I think DJ can do just about what he wants to do, and you love to have guys like that. Sometimes I make it the illusion if we just play pickup football, where somebody can be all-time quarterback and
Right.
everybody go out for a pass, and you just drafted your team according to that, you would pick a guy like DJ Dallas early because whatever you ask him to do, he might be able to play nose guard. He's going to do it well. When you evaluate a guy off of film, high schools, their job, our job at Miami is to win national championships, and if the NFL likes what they see, they'll come get him. In high school, your job is to win a state championship and win as many games as you can. And one way you do that is you put your best player at quarterback. So there have been plenty of great players who have projected on the defensive side of the ball coming out of, like where you watch most of their high school film, and they've got the ball under their arm. Now, I do know this. It's fun to watch guys score touchdowns. And
Yeah.
the more touchdowns the Miami Hurricanes score, the happier the Miami Hurricane defense is to defend when the Canes got a bunch of points. It's a lot easier for us to win the game. So DJ's a guy that, he is electric with the ball in his hand, but he certainly has change of direction and the type of ball skills that would project that he could be outstanding in the secondary as well. A lot of times what will happen is, we obviously have match drills coming up here in a couple weeks. We'll see how these guys work through match drills. We certainly, with the guys that we've lost at wideout and in the secondary, sometimes what you're waiting to see is the guys on the roster, how do they step up? And some guys do. Some guys, it's just a natural maturation of a college football player. The light comes on, they realize that I've been waiting, biding my time, and now they know it's my time.
I think that's something that gets lost on a day like today. It seems that every National Signing Day, that's the team of tomorrow, but not really tomorrow. It's the team could be 2, 3, and 4 years down the road. And you saw, and I saw as well, every single year there's going to be a couple guys. It might be a fifth-year guy, could be a third, fourth, whatever it is. All of a sudden, as you say, the light goes on, but you need that to happen. You need that mature player to be ready to go.
Well, there's no doubt, and that's why we love coaching college football. There's two things really. It's player evaluation, which is what we're sitting here evaluating the class that we're signing, and then it's player development. And no matter what we, love to think about them, and no matter what the internet crowns these guys, what I love about coaching college football is that they all still have to develop to be good enough to play for the Miami Hurricanes their first year, and because they're not good enough. No matter what we want them to believe, they have to learn how to go through a college practice. They have to learn, the demands of the college game. It is a natural step up. And there are going to be guys on our football team that our expectation is that they should play better than they played the year before. All of them should do that. So, but also people, they have eyes on the front of their head. They can see, well, listen, I'm playing behind this guy. Sometimes they know it's not their time. Sometimes they just have to mature mentally to the point where they play with that urgency down after down where they can become a big-time guy.
All right, so right now at this point, the University of Miami has added 8 players to the defense, to Coach Diaz's defense. And the last time we saw your defense, you were stifling West Virginia, holding them to 14 points and about 300 yards below their average. So a great finish to that season and a good start to this one. Thanks for joining us here today.
My pleasure. It's always good to see you guys again. Miss you guys.
All right, that's University of Miami defensive coordinator Manny Diaz. And boys, that defense, fun to watch. We'll continue with much more of National Signing Day from the University of Miami right here on ACC Network Extra.